Hello and welcome to the Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover Super Wildcard Review Show. Breaking down what happened in Super Wildcard Weekend. Some big upsets, mainly for me and Paul. But how are you guys doing, Paul?
Still extremely upset, which we'll get into.
Joe, your Niners won as many games as our Cowboys this weekend. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. It was a good weekend. Like everyone who I wanted to win did win. It was a strange one where it was like, oh, this actually worked out. So for us, the 49ers side, it's which we'll probably talk about in the preview going forward. It was a good week.
Feels a bit of a personal attack out there as well, Paul, I think. But
real happy.
We'll be above it.
All your teams won, that you wanted to win. Real happy for you.
Buzzing, mate. Yeah, you must be loving it. But yeah, we'll go through in order of the games that were played. So we'll start out in Houston. Cleveland went in as 2-point favorites. I still can't believe that. I don't know if I noticed that on the preview show. In my head, the Texans were 2-point favorites. I even got Charlie's picks to do that. And yeah, they were 2-point underdogs and did not play like it. Obviously came away with a huge win, 45-14. Never really felt in doubt once that game got going. Houston dominated. Paul, what did you think of the Texans CJ Stroud coming out game?
Yeah, it's almost as each week passes by, he gets more and more impressive, which is crazy considering the standard he's set for himself. I think it might, I don't think it's too grandiose to a claim now to say that this has been the most impressive rookie season a quarterback's had. Yes, they got some help from the Jaguars to win that division, but to take that team from where it was, 11 wins in the last 3 seasons to go then win the division, win a playoff game. I think it's just incredible what he's managed to do specifically. The team as a whole, of course, and also the coach deserves a lot of credit, D'Amico Ryans, for that Texans turnaround. But yeah, just double-digit wins, a playoff win, a division title, and I think they're going to be dangerous. Won't touch too much on the next game, but really, really impressive. The defense as well, I thought did a lot. Has come along as well.
Yeah.
This very much reminded me of the Bengals team that made a run to the Super Bowl in 21, where just kind of Stroud just getting better and better. I'm not suggesting he's better than Burrow, but he's playing to at such a level. You've got weapons. The defense is kind of gone under the radar a little bit, but is getting a lot better. And I think there can be a force. I think ultimately this kind of game could have got out of hand with the back-to-back pick sixes, didn't it, ultimately? And that was kind of, Flacco's done unbelievably well for the Cleveland Browns, and what a story it's been. But, you're always rolling the dice with the way that he plays, and ultimately, didn't come up with the numbers that they needed, and ultimately that's kind of what I suppose turned the momentum of the game, and then the Texans just went, strength to strength from there, but a real impressive performance.
Yeah, and I know you're saying CJ Stroud, maybe not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was 25 in the 2021 season. CJ Stroud's the youngest quarterback to win a playoff game. He's 22 years old and incredible. Joe, did you watch the game and what did you think?
So I didn't watch it on the day, but I was keeping up with it and I watched the highlights and it was it was dominating, to be honest. Like CJ Stroud is in a conversation now, possibly best rookie quarterback season. It's certainly going to be up there after this victory, and we'll see where it goes after this. But I think like what Paul mentioned, certainly the interceptions, the back-to-back pick six killed the game. I think there was a game still there if Flacco didn't make them mistakes, but he's run enough interceptions, so it shouldn't be too surprising. But when you look at how the game started, obviously the Browns scored. Came back twice, got touchdowns on there in the first quarter. So I think it was just impressive how CJ Stroud and Houston just kept going. There's been plenty of games this weekend where there's been a fast start and it's just slowed up, but it's how they just kept piling on them points, putting pressure on Joe Flacco to keep performing as well. And you've got to give a big shout to the Texans defense because yes, when they played each other, Stroud wasn't playing, but it was a similar defense, and they pressured and they dominated at times, and they got Flacco. They sacked him a number of times, and I think vice versa, the Browns' defensive line, I think that was the biggest disappointment in terms of not really affecting. I know Garrett's he's had an injury the last few weeks, but this is the big games. This is where you've got to stand up and make an impact. So at this point, that end, and like we mentioned in the preview, it's just a weird defense in general. How they're so good at home. I think they're like the number one in points allowed, but they're one of the worst away from home. And usually, like defense travels, so I'm not quite sure how that comes about. And it's just and finally a Shanahan offense beats Jim Swart.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to wait to beat him, it's a good way to do it. Blow wheels off. Jeez Louise. And I think actually the Browns have got the worst point differential or points conceded on the road and the number one at home, which is wild because it doesn't feel like that should stack up.
Yeah, we talked about preview. It's one of my shout outs for the over. Well, I'm sure we'll get into going through it, but I hit the over with this. And the reason being and why I said that I'm so confident this was an over game is the fact that the Browns defense gives up just short of 30 points a game on the road. And the Texans 45. Well, actually, Texans defense scored 13. So they gave up 31 again, the Browns defense. So kind of right on line. Yeah. And it was just going to be the case where the Texans going to score enough to hit the over, and they did. And not only did they score enough to hit the over, the Texans as a whole covered it because I think it was 44.5, so the Texans covered the over anyway by themselves. But yeah, impressed. And also, Cleveland Browns, it kind of fell apart a bit in this game for them. They've had a great season. Like when you think about, they started 5 quarterbacks. Look at the teams. I know Jeff Driscoll was in an inconsequential game, but they've still started 5 quarterbacks over the course of the season. Look at the mess of other teams that have had to start 3 or more quarterbacks. The Jets, the Vikings. I'm probably forgetting some others that have gone through it as well. And yet the Browns have managed to keep, and actually, weirdly, every time they made a change at quarterback, they got better offensively.
Yeah. Doesn't bode well for the $250 million man, but
no, and that's a problem now. And I mean, I think surely Joe Flacco rides off into the sunset, and this is it. This is a great way to finish.
You'd think so. I would think so.
Sticks around, but they've got a huge part. They've got. It's not they've got a decision to make. How do they get out of that Deshaun Watson situation?
They can't this year.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say they're going to give it at least another year because again, there's an excuse that he got the injury and etc. And so having a full year with him, but it feels like it's massive this year and see where and I wonder how much because I haven't dug deep into this, how much it's going to affect like keeping the rest of the players or bringing in someone new because you've also got to make that offensive line was banged up for this game and I think that didn't help when you've got someone who I think possibly we could challenge him to a sprint. I'm not quite sure what I was saying that but so there's positives like you've mentioned. The coaching, I think that was a question mark coming into the season. I think they proved that they are the right coaching staff. It's just, progressing now after paying all that much money. And can they continue this? Because you don't want it to be a team where the Browns have done this before, where they've got to the playoffs. Everything looks rosy, and then suddenly then the doldrum again the next 2 or 3 years, and they're rebuilding it.
Just looking at Deshaun Watson's over the cap page, the next 3 years, if they were to try and cut him, he'd be due 2024. If they want to cut him this year, it'd be due 155 million in dead cap. It's not happening. Next year, 109 million in dead cap. It's not happening. The year after, 63 million in dead cap. He's not really. He's not really out of that team until 2027. So I don't think they can bring Joe Flacco back because it's too bad of a vibe for them. It's too good of a vibe, essentially.
Yeah, because he'd have to start right at the minute. Like
it would have to be a competition.
Yeah.
And I don't think you want Deshaun Watson in the competition with Joe Flacco at 39 years old.
No, just to quickly blow my own trumpet on this one. I had probably my best weekend of the season from a bets perspective, props and just the outcomes. But we hit the over, obviously, which we'll get into that because we've got our competitions. But I had Flacco over 37.5 pass attempts. There was only one game where I didn't throw 40, threw 46, I think, in this one. Also hit Nico Collins' longest reception of 30 or more yards. At plus 135. She had Schultz receptions that didn't quite get there because he only had the one which was on, especially the way the game was going. You thought it obviously had a few more, but pretty good night on this game. But Texans are alive. Like I know they've got real tough games. The toughest of games next week against Baltimore, but they're alive in that game. They've absolutely got a chance because this kid CJ Stroud is just too good.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. Obviously, we'll get onto the Texans part of that on our preview show later in the week. Who they're playing, etc. Well, they're playing the Baltimore Ravens, but in terms of previewing the game, we'll get onto that. And yeah, we'll move on to our next AFC battle Saturday night, Peacock exclusive, which doesn't really apply to you guys, but it's a big deal in America. Given the biggest outrage of all kind, or people were not amused by having to. Well, I get it for free with my internet, so I really can't complain. You get The Office on there. Other shows are available on Peacock, I'm sure, but I'm going to use it for watching The Office. But anyway, the Dolphins went into frigid Kansas City, the 4th coldest playoff game of all time. Joe, sure you were watching that on Saturday night. How was it?
It played out how I expected it, to be honest. Like I said earlier, it would have been nice for Dolphins, but like the Dolphins don't show up, and they just proved it again. And if from the first whistle, it felt like they weren't ready for this game. And I think that's what, and we'll talk about games going forward, but I think that's the worst sin of any team going into the playoffs, where they just don't turn up and they just don't look ready. You know, you played 18, it's been like 19 weeks of football, where your whole purpose is to get to the playoffs. Like, this whole year is to have an opportunity to win the Super Bowl. And it just felt like they just didn't turn up. Yes, they're playing in freezing cold weathers, but the other team is as well. And I always find like it's like a weird thing. It's not like people who play for Kansas were born in Kansas, so that they grew up with it. You know, most NFL players are usually, from sunny climates, it feels like, or they go to colleges with that. So to use that as an excuse, and I think it just goes again where I think the Dolphins are in another tricky position, because what do you do? Because again, Tua just doesn't turn up at these big games. The only touchdown they got was an underthrow, and it was more Tyreek Hill making the play. Yeah. And there was never any other time where it was like, oh, they're going to stage a comeback or they're going to score some points. It never felt that way whatsoever. And then it just caps it off in the 4th quarter near the end, where it felt like they were just ready to go home and they were just weren't pushing it or even trying. Cause, it was a decent margin, but if you throw one downfield, get a quick touchdown, and you never know what happens. But it just felt there were 5-6 minutes left. Let's just keep it in bounds and let's get out of here as quickly as possible, because we're not good enough.
Yeah. It really looked to me like Mike McDaniel was calling a game for a quarterback he doesn't believe in. It was all screens, it felt like. And the passing radar looked a little better than that, but I think that was just some deep shots that were kind of just tossed in there willy-nilly. It just felt like, they just wanted to go home, which, like you said, I'm not sure you can write a bit worse sin for an NFL team to get to all the way through the regular season and then get to the playoffs and just be like, well, we can't bother with this. And I think it was a bit of a theme of the weekend, the tackling from a couple of teams, but the Dolphins were one of the worst culprits of it. Isaiah Pacheco looked like, kind of he was on fire and they were afraid to touch him. There was wide receivers just running through arm tackles constantly, it felt like, for the Chiefs. And like I said, just felt like Dolphins did not want to be there. Fully agree, yeah.
Yeah, their season finished last week when as soon as they got beat by the Bills, that was it. You knew what was going to happen here. And again, I think we all called it in the preview, but certainly discussed it in the preview. I thought the Chiefs were going to run all over them. They did. The Chiefs were just going to bully them physically, outmatch them, and they just did. It was so easy for the Chiefs, and it was only kind of the Chiefs' inability to finish off drives that kept this from being late 40s, even 50 points, from kicking field goals. I suppose the Dolphins, again, we'll go back to obviously the Dolphins and the soft, and I never fancied them going. The toll the injuries have taken on that defense is massive, and they never had a chance. And to be fair, there's a bit of that Chiefs in offensive ineptitude that forced a lot of those field goals. Also, the Dolphins kind of held out and forced them to field goals. If they could have got something going offensively, they might have been able to hang in this game. But the Chiefs were just too strong. I found the Chiefs a bit on top, but Mike McDaniel got in his own head, I think, with the game that he called. I thought the Chiefs' approach to it was funny. The first drive or two, they were killing him with Pacheco. killing him. He ended up finishing, so he was 10, and this is just because I backed it, which is why I know it in so much detail.
Yeah.
But Pacheco at the half had 10 rushes for 60 yards. He was killing them. He then ran 14 times in the second half for 29 yards, but a lot of that was at the end when it was just, a couple of yard runs.
Yeah.
And
then he got turned over to CEH later on. I think he had 7 or 8 carries for 20, 30 yards.
But they just went crazy throwing the ball in that kind of third quarter stretch, where I think they all scored 1 field goal in the third quarter, the Chiefs. But they were just throwing and throwing and throwing. It was like, well, if you just carried on running, you'd have murdered them.
Yeah.
20. It's as one-sided a 19-point game as you'll ever see. But I just found that odd, and I think if the Chiefs are going to be successful in this, and if they're saying to get to Super Bowl or try and win another another championship, I think you just need to lean on Pacheco a lot more, especially when he's on top of them and when he's killing teams. I can't edit that out, Joe. And I suppose, and a shout as well, Rashee Rice, I thought was real impressive. He set a record, didn't he, that didn't last particularly long in terms of rookie receiving yards in a playoff game. So, just real impressive. And, also shout out Andy Reid's mustache.
So good. I like
freezing over.
I don't know if he wants to put it on socials, but Joe's tribute to it on Sunday morning, I thought was impressive too. I presume that's what you're going for, Joe, anyway. Not just going out for your groceries. Going reading. Andy reading, obviously, not reading a book. I was wondering how you guys would feel about the Chiefs' offense going forward, because this is the best of luck. I think obviously touchdowns weren't there, but I think that was kind of just they didn't need them. Kind of same reason Pacheco didn't get much work down the stretch because it wasn't necessary. And I think that's kind of a good way to go. Rest, not so much rest, but you don't want to show everything if you don't need to.
Yeah.
Andy Reid, obviously, hell of a play caller. I'm sure he's got plenty of stuff up his sleeves for next weekend. And if the Dolphins are just going to let you walk through the game, take it.
The Kelsey drops are interesting because and I think he needs to get out of his own way. These next, are we just flipping backgrounds, Joe, just to piss us off? Yeah, okay. Kelsey needs to get out of his own way because a lot of easy catches that he was dropping. I think there's about one maybe that was thrown a little bit above him that he didn't get. But it's also a ball you were fully expecting Travis Kelce to go get. Yeah. There's one that he would have caught, I think, 6 or 7 yards out that he just ran into the end zone with that he dropped. Yeah. And that's real frustrating when you're on even money Travis Kelce anytime touchdown scorer. But but just thinking about that in games. Next week in going to Buffalo, you can't do that. Like you're going to get punished. So, it'd be interesting if they can sort themselves out. But they're doing it on the young guys. It's on Rashee Rice. It's on Pacheco. In this game when they still had full control, they still had Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball 40 times, which I really don't think you needed to do.
No, I don't think you needed to, but I think it did catch the Dolphins off guard in the first half, especially the amount they were doing it and the success they were having doing it. Because, again, like you say, Rashee Rice set the rookie record and just looked so easy. Every time he caught the ball, he turned around, he had 4 yards to run into. Yeah, just a sad, dismal end to the Dolphin season, I think. I'm not really sure how much more there is to say. I kind of like Mike McDaniel.
You've seen it coming for the last 6 weeks that if they got stuck going on the road, they were going to be in trouble.
And I think, Mike McDaniel was asked if he might give up play calling. I think that would be fairly crazy, truthfully, because I think he's one of the better ones. But I liked that his answer was like, nothing's off the table. When you lose like that, that should be your approach. Everything needs to be assessed. And I think one of the biggest things to be assessed, and again, we'll get into this more in the offseason, but Tua is due a contract. Would you be paying him, $40 million a year? Just that's a number. You can't say, well, I do 38. You're the Dolphins. Tua wants $40 million a year for 4 years, pretty much fully guaranteed. $130 million, say. Are you happy paying it?
I'm guessing the issue they have is that what's the other option in terms of who can you get? Because there's a lot worse than Tua. I think a lot of these quarterbacks we'll probably talk about. It can be a lot worse. There's a lot of teams who would love to have that player. But then it's also, are you ever going to get to the heights you ever want to get to with that kind of player?
Yep.
And
Tell me about it, Joe. Tell me about it.
And like someone like Tua, you probably could win a Super Bowl, or there's been plenty of quarterbacks who have won a Super Bowl who are not elite or top 5. There's been plenty of them, so you could, but you never got that, the success constant throughout the years and win multiple. So it's that tricky thing that if you say, "Oh, okay, we'll not pay him," someone else will pay him that much money. I think there'll people be trying to get him, but it's then who do you get afterwards, because it's not like elite quarterbacks grow on trees, unfortunately.
I also think your number's a lot closer to 50 than it's 40. Remember, Daniel Jones I think Daniel Jones is a $40 million a year quarterback. Yeah. Let's not forget that. And again, the cap's going to go up. I think it's going to go up another $25 million. So I think it's much closer to 50. I think it's a problem.
Well, that's why I'm giving you the friendly number, though.
Yeah, well, give me the friendly. Maybe at 40, yeah.
Yeah.
I think at 40, yeah, just with the nature of the cap.
Because I think if I ask you if you're paying him 50, you all say no.
Probably.
I'm almost, truthfully, I think I'm saying no at 40, because you don't look for a new quarterback when you've got one. You do if you're Green Bay and you plan properly.
Yeah.
But like most teams aren't actively looking because you don't want to piss your quarterback off.
I think the comments, and you naturally expect them, after the the comments from the GM, and of course he's going to say it, but yeah, I think they will. Can they get him someone that's friendly for the team? I don't know, but I think they've got big, weirdly, I think they've got bigger problems than Tua. And oddly, as much as we have praised him all through the season, I think Mike McDaniel is a bigger problem than Tua. How do you only run the ball 14 times in this game? 50, I think they ran Jalen Waddle once, did 15 times in this game. With the nature of the game, the conditions, I know they're expecting the run. You've got to commit to it. They wouldn't. Bear in mind, the Chiefs only scored 26. They weren't.
Yeah.
You weren't crazy out of it from a scoring perspective. You needed to give that offense some balance.
Yep. And
he just refused to do it. Second half against Buffalo last week, he refused to do it, and it's cost him. It's cost them home playoff games. It's cost them a chance at winning this one.
Yeah, and it's so weird because they have such a good running attack.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Through the season,
I know most had been hurt. I know Devin A-Chain's been hurt earlier in the season, but A-Chain, since he's come back, has looked good.
Yep.
They give it him 6 times. And the thing is, I know they didn't have a lot of success with it, but you have to force the Chiefs to keep defending it.
Yeah.
And eventually, again, the nature of the game, you will start seeing some success with it.
And especially if your only alternative is throwing 40 screen passes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I can definitely see that as a point of contention. And yeah, Mike McDaniel, I think, is a long way from being on a hot seat, but it's definitely it's something that needs to improve in Miami. Yeah. And yeah, like just
Isn't the Dolphins now the longest streak without a playoff win? I think they're the new team.
Well, after
they won 2009.
Yeah,
I think you're right though. I don't even think it is 2009 actually. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it is the Dolphins.
Yeah, and I think the pressure's only going to ratchet up on them. And yeah, you can say a bit bad luck with the amount of injuries they had, especially on they're just I didn't realize until the game I was watching the game that Van Ginkel was injured as well as Chubb, as well as Jalen Phillips. And you're nearing next year's 25 years. Yes, it's won a postseason game. Yeah, there's be a lot of pressure down in South Florida.
I was just looking their playoff record. So yeah, the last playoff win was 2000. They beat the Colts in overtime in the wildcard round, and then in the divisional round, they went to Oakland and lost 27-0. Not a great memory for their last playoff win either, basically, is what I'm getting at. That is a dismal state of affairs for one of the more notable NFL franchises historically, I think. I didn't realize it had been that long. I was guessing 2009 when you mentioned it, Joe. So, geez Louise, that is dismal.
What we have got, though, as a result of this game is an amazing game next week. We've got Mahomes against Allen again. One of the, probably the top rivalry in terms of plays. This one's been born over the last few years. And every time these two teams play each other, it always seems to be a fantastic game. So very much looking forward to that one next week.
Yeah. Let's see if the Bills will give up more than 13 seconds for the Chiefs to get downfield again.
And quick shout out, NFL. Thanks for making some more friendly times for the divisional round. So we've got it's just the one games on Saturday late night, and then Chiefs Bills is 11:30 on a Sunday. So that's a possible. Can stay up and still watch it with work the next morning. Shout out NFL.
I'm sure they appreciate that shout out. And from one dismal, historic NFL franchise to another. Sunday's first game should have been Steelers-Bills. Should have been. Sadly for us, it was Packers-Cowboys. Green Bay came in as 7.5-point underdogs, and I think they covered Dallas in muck, essentially. 48-32, and it was not as close as that. I don't need to tell you, Paul. But I am going to ask you to lead off here.
Should we start?
Say whatever's on your mind.
So let's start with the Packers, because what I don't want to do is not give them their credit they deserve, because obviously there's a lot to discuss with Dallas naturally. But yeah, honestly, this is probably the most complete team performance I've seen in the NFL this season. There's been a lot of noise the last, probably the last 6-7 weeks about how bad this Packers defense has been.
Yep.
They were absolutely incredible. They were so good. In the secondary, they were so good. Cowboys receivers couldn't get separation, couldn't get space. They only did when the Packers gave it to them, when they started playing prevent defense in the third quarter. And that's the only time the Cowboys were effective in moving the ball. I thought up front they were great. The old line did a good job from a Packers perspective. And Jordan Love was we talked about how good CJ Stroud was. I think, Love was that and more in this game. I was so impressed, and we've seen it a few times in some glimpses of it where he throws and he's not got a set platform.
Yep.
He made throw after throw after throw without his feet set.
Mm-hmm.
Just really impressive. Just calmness under pressure, ability to move the pocket. And those, receivers again. We talked about the young receivers, and that they've been getting better collectively. Romeo Doubs had broke the record we just talked about. Rashee Rice setting, had a great game, and it was just big play after big play after big play. They, ran the ball. Aaron Jones again is Cowboys killer. Ran, and we called it out. I think, we called it out. Big worry of ours was that Jones has been back and Dallas have not been able to stop the run in the last third of the season, and the Packers ran all over him. Aaron Jones, just especially the amount of yards after contact that he got was unreal. The Cowboys were interested in tackling him, and again we'll get into the negatives of the Cowboys because it was that bad. Jaire Alexander had a huge play. I'd like to talk about the refs on that in a bit, but he was a game time decision after he got hurt in the week, and he had a great game as well. Again, Joe, I don't know how worried you are for next week, but this Packers team are legit. They're a really, really good team. I don't know if they could put that level of performance again 2 weeks in a row, because it was that good, and I think it was as perfect as you can get a performance. From that group. So just, massive well done to Green Bay, and they thoroughly deserve to win that game by more than 16 as well.
Yeah. And I think, shouting out the defense is very notable because, they had 4 sacks on Dak, 2 interceptions. Dallas didn't get a sack in the game. It's meant to be a defensive strong team.
It was 6 pass breakups as well. They were just flying around everywhere. That interception number as well, I think it was two picks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That could have quite easily been 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And that might be the only blight on the Packers, that actually they could have this could have been a complete, not full shutout, but this could have been 50-odd 7, 50-odd 14.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying off the bat here.
You couldn't have grumbled at that from a Cowboys perspective. There's no way this is just a 2-score game.
No, and I think a lot of that was Green Bay, like you said, playing prevent defense, and we know you're not winning this game.
And they took the starters out as well.
Yeah.
They took the starters out with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it went 48-16 with 10.5 remaining. And, they're in the game. They know the game's over. So You take the starters out, you rest up. Big game coming next week for them, obviously. Do you want to get onto a rant about the Cowboys? Joe, do you have any takes before Paul gets going?
Yeah, do you want to cover Packers and your thoughts on the Cowboys before I lose my mind?
Yeah. Similar to what I said about the Dolphins. On the Cowboys side of it, if, again, another team who didn't feel like they turned up whatsoever, I feel like this was a big coaching shellacking, that it was evident that LaFleur had prepared a lot better than Mike McCarthy. I'm curious if the Cowboys came in too big-headed, that they were like, oh, we've won 16 at home. Obviously, we're going to beat the Packers here, and we're going to be thinking about next week. And I think that from the game point of view, like that first drive was massive. I think them getting that touchdown just set the tone completely. It just like, okay, when that happened, it was okay, there's a game on here. There was a few things where the Cowboys did what obviously helped to extend that with certain offsides and stupid penalties, which Mike McCarthy, Dallas teams are known for in the playoffs and in big games. So that helped them. And yeah, they just felt off. It just was so weird just watching the Cowboys like on both sides of the ball. It's not even like you could say, oh well, the defense didn't turn up or the offense. It was like both sides. There's a weird thing happening between Dak and CeeDee Lamb, which I don't know what's actually happened. I don't know if he's like being overblown or anything like that. But if there is something, it's like, it's the playoff guys, sort that out, get over it, basically. Obviously, Cook running that, not the greatest route for the first interception. And I think, obviously, that didn't help. And then the pick six. And it felt like when that pick six was happening, it was the last game over. And there was always a chance, there's been big comebacks before where that's happened. But even so, it didn't feel like they were going to come back. You thought, Cowboys are going to put some points on like they always do. They're going to get some decent players, and Packers are going to play soft defense and try not to give up huge plays and quick scores. But yeah, on Cowboys defense, that's just, where has that gone? From start of the season thinking he could be one of the best to like, did they make any? They must have made a stop somewhere, but it didn't feel like there was that many stops. It just, as soon as the Packers got the ball, it was like, well, they're going to get at least 3 or 7. And they're just going to keep piling the points. And I think that was the issue and why I thought the game was over. Because, Cowboys could score, put some points on, but they're not keeping Packers up the board. So I think, like you said, somehow the Packers defense is turning around within 2 or 3 weeks. And team performance, so congrats to them. But I think this is more just the Cowboys didn't turn up and they were just atrocious on all levels. So
just to hammer home the point about whether how good or how inept how good the offense was for the Packers or how inept the Cowboys defense was. So the Cowboys stopped Aaron Jones for a loss of 3 yards, 1 minute and 3 seconds into the first quarter. The Packers didn't have another negative play on offense until Jordan Love took a knee to end the game. No sacks, no tackles for loss.
I was going to say as well, Joe mentioned about stopping them. The Packers punted on their second drive at 7-0. The next time they punted, it was 48-24. So, game done.
And where I sort of was, where the alarm bell started ringing for me, crazy to say this at the game, but just how it was going. So, on the second play, Cowboys got the sack of Jordan Love, second play of the game. They got the sack on Jordan Love. I think it was Donovan Wilson, and Chancey Goldston that got there. And Duron Bland gets flagged for a holding penalty that Jordan Love can't make that throw because he's under instant pressure. And Bland's pulling, and all of a sudden you just extend that drive, and that's it. And from that moment, from that moment, I was like, "Here we fucking go again with these penalties, this ill discipline." And that comes from one player. Yeah, absolutely. It's the players committing the penalties, but it's this coaching staff. This is shit you're supposed to iron out in training camp.
Yep.
And mini camps and all of that. And this is 4 years now of this, and it's the same old shit again from Mike McCarthy. And the Cowboys have got more problems, and probably there's one bigger problem than Mike McCarthy. for the Dallas Cowboys. But sadly, that guy isn't going to remove himself from the situation because he owns the fucking team. He's going to do what he wants.
Yeah.
He's still not done what I want and what every other person who follows the Dallas Cowboys wants to do. It's Tuesday night and he's still not sacked Mike McCarthy.
No, I am refreshing Adam Schefter's Twitter feed.
There's no way he doesn't go, but it'll be a couple of weeks down the line because this is what Jerry's like. It took him ages to get rid of Garrett.
Yeah. Not just at the end of the season. It took him ages in terms of years to get rid of Jason Garrett.
Yeah. And he only pulled the trigger on Wade Phillips because it got so bad mid-season.
Yeah.
And Garrett was already there. But there's bigger problems. But I think for me, so the problem the Cowboys have got is the owner thinks they are this close.
Yeah.
My hand's not on the screen. Don't know why. The owner thinks they are this close, so close to being a championship winning team. Realistically, they're not. They have got a bunch of great players. Micah Parsons, CD Lamb. Obviously, Trayvon Diggs has been missing, which would have been huge in this game if Trayvon Diggs would have been fit. They've got Gilmore. They've got great players that are developing in other positions.
Dak Prescott's going to get MVP votes.
Dak Prescott has had the best season, and he's played at times in stretches the best we've ever seen him play.
Yep.
Sadly, we also saw some of the worst of Dak Prescott in this game. And yet, the key things are in there. Last year, they were in a position where this interior of the defensive line, this inability to stop the run in December and January, killed them. They've not gone and rectified it. So, in fact, I thought Jonathan Hankins being back for this game was going to be huge for the Cowboys. It was just he had no effect on that run, being that run defense.
Yeah.
That defense, and then once that defense can't stop the run, they get killed. They get killed in the pass game. The amount of times a Packers receiver was in the middle, in that gap between the safeties and the linebackers, and there's not a Cowboy defender within 15 yards of him, it was ridiculous. So that I think ultimately this I appreciate, and I'm hearing what I'm saying. It sounds ridiculous that you've got a team that's gone 12-5 3 years in a row, that have won the division twice in those 3 years, that have a playoff win in those 3 years. I think they absolutely need to blow this up, because what is the point? You do not have a team that is capable of winning in December and January. So you can go win 12 games again, look great against all the shitty teams, beat up on them, put 40, 48, 50 on, your Commanders, your Giants, your Jets, your Patriots. What's the fucking point in that when you get to December and you get to January and you come up against, and again, this Packers team was exceptional today on Sunday, but they're an okay to good team, and you get fucking walloped.
Yeah.
Like what?
At home as well.
At home.
Where they've been 8-0 this season, absolutely dominant.
I did
the lights come on and...
Yeah. I did a little bit. I was talking to Byron before the recording. I just sparked my interest a couple of hours ago and actually going, well, McCarthy's been there for 4 years now. When Dallas have played teams with a winning record, and when I say winning record, at the end of the season was a winning team, what's his record been? So there've been 32 games over Mike McCarthy's 4-year tenure, regular season and playoffs, where the Cowboys have played a team that's ended up with a winning record at the end of the season. Joe, do you want to hazard a guess into what the Cowboys' record in those 32 games is?
10-22.
Not well. It's slightly better than that. 12-20.
Well, no, that's not too much better.
It's not too much better. Slightly better. 12-20. This team is not. Well, everything we've just talked about the Dolphins applies to the Cowboys here. And the problem is they are going to keep going, thinking we're a year away, we're a couple of pieces away, or we're one piece away, and they're not. They're a million miles away. Dan Quinn has got a huge, and again, we've talked about the job that Dan Quinn's done, which I think overall has been a pretty decent job.
Oh, yeah.
But there was times during this game where this reminded me of that Rob Ryan historically bad defense that the Cowboys had. It was one of
I don't think there's a play more indicative of it than Luke Musgrave's touchdown.
That's insane.
It's got to be one of the worst covered players you've ever seen.
There's not nobody within 50 yards of him.
No, in a playoff game.
Crazy. And yeah, it just reminded me that. And my concern is that Dan Quinn didn't change his approach at all. They were playing. Dallas has been real successful in playing a lot of man defense.
Yeah.
trusting Bland, trusting Gilmore, that you can kind of latch on. And they've made huge plays from that. A lot of Deron Bland's interceptions are from that playing man defense. They went to these really soft zones, and that was the approach, and he stuck to it the entirety of the game. Also, when Aaron Jones was just running all over them, it just didn't do anything to try and, adapt to. It's just the Joe, you just fuck off. Don't need to see Jerry's face right now. And I think probably what you saw at the end of the game, and I appreciate I've gone on for 5 minutes now. I will stop. Jerry at the end of the game, that one hurt.
Yeah.
That hurt, and you could
see...
again,
because he thinks they're so close. Of course it hurts.
You could see it.
But that was definitely the worst one out there. 3.
Certainly the last 3, yeah. Because the Niners games they were competitive in.
Yeah.
And they weren't the
endings.
Yeah. And they were only bad just because how comical it ended.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this was like comical from
minute 1.
The first, from minute 1 till the end, it was comical. And I think that's the worst. And my worry if I was a Cowboys fan was Jerry Jones sticking just because how many years did he stick with Garrett where it was where it was like every year it was like surely he's going to get rid of him, and then they would just get into the playoffs, lose the first round, and then next year they'll go like 8-8, and then they'll just keep him for one more year. You do worry, but we've talked about this all year. Just going back to Dan Quinn, I think he was against the Niners as well. I said it just doesn't change his approach whatsoever. It just like, and I think when you get to the playoffs, there's certain teams who are better than other teams, but most of the top teams are very similar. There's not like a massive gap, and it does come down to coaching, and it does come down to preparation and the scheme. And I think when you do have a head coach who just doesn't rise to that, then you're always going to be on the back foot, and it's going to be something, unless you're playing, a defunct Buccaneers who couldn't, Tom Brady couldn't throw to save his life last year. That's the only games you're going to win when your players are way better than the other teams.
Yeah.
When it's close, it comes down to scheme, discipline, and the coaching. I think is a big deal, and I think that is such a big weakness because Mike McCarthy has now shown when it comes down to it, he just can't prepare his team properly, and that's huge. So, and I'm not quite sure who they're going to get going forward. I think some of the people have mentioned, what people have mentioned is that is Jerry really going to want any of them? Because when you look at all the coaches he's had, the last 4 coaches you mentioned, they're all like, stay in line. It's Jerry's show, and you just it's in the limelight. But like some of the ones who've been mentioned, it's like they're not going to want to do that, and is Jerry going to want them to do that? It's because I think Harbaugh would be great at Cowboys if I was a Cowboys fan.
Yeah,
if I could choose, he'll only be there for 3 or 4 years, but he'll make your team a winning team, and he'll
be there 3 or 4 months.
Yeah,
he'll be out on a murder charge when he has to deal with Jerry Jones.
Yeah,
well, that's probably the thing, and I suppose if Jones is sort of Jerry, I'm never call him Jones. Jerry's sort of stated his die before he departs this mortal realm. He's real desire to get to another Super Bowl and win it. That he has to have a realization. He needs to come away. There has to be a GM that doesn't have Jones as a surname. Has to get somebody in objectively, and just speak the truth to him around. Look, if you want to get you've got almost everything, the settings right, the team. You've got a lot of the pieces, but there's just some fundamental things that need to change. And I do think Jerry's a huge problem in that. The fact he goes on fucking radio shows every week. It's just, and that, what he's saying in the build. We'll go, week by week. We'll see with Mike. It's like you can't do that. And also, I'm really disappointed. And I didn't get to mention this. It's the last one. I was really disappointed in some of the big players, the leaders. What the hell was going on with CeeDee Lamb in that first half?
Well, McCarthy spoke to him after the first drive, right?
Yeah, and the first one of them, the third down is a difficult catch, but it's one you fully expect CeeDee Lamb to make.
Yeah,
and it's a big play. It keeps that drive going. The second one was a pretty bad throw to him on the sideline. It was high, but again, you're fully expecting CeeDee Lamb to make that catch, and it's a positive play, and it puts the Cowboys in a short third down situation. he just didn't look interested.
I was going to say, like, players who miss a play here and there, it definitely will happen.
It's just his head went.
Yeah, he just didn't look in the game.
Yeah.
And I know, like, we're not psychologists, but like, it's just how it looks. It's all you can judge on.
Pressure and the expectation. And the other one, and I'm a huge, and I feel bad, talking. Micah Parsons in this game was just a non-factor, and also his last 6 weeks, by his standards, he's been poor.
Yeah,
and then if that's a little bit of Quinn. Maybe they're moving him around too much. I don't know. Does he need, to have that bounce away? You move him everywhere. Whatever. Oh, Micah, podcast rival, he's twitching. He does the Twitch stream, doesn't he? Stop pissing him out. No, I'm joking. You can do that if you want. But maybe Quinn's moved him around too much, and he's not. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But I was really disappointed with him, and he looked hard off it as well. And you talk about kind of your big players. You need to step. I need to give it the big one in the build-up to this round. Now he's going to have a monster playoffs. He did finally get a holding call, which was good.
Yeah, I was going to say he finally starts getting holding calls, and it
doesn't
make a spot of difference because he's not doing anything.
Yeah, and they were big. Lawrence, I thought DeMarcus Lawrence had a particularly poor game. Hankins coming back in. I don't know if he just didn't look right. Like he's been out with that ankle injury. Mazzy Smith when he went in just got pushed around again. It's probably too early. He's looking like a bust. And that
I didn't like the pick at the time, to be honest.
Yeah.
But,
that was the move they made to shore up the run defense. He didn't play for the first 6 weeks of the season. He's not big enough or mobile enough. So he's not smaller and quick to get in the gaps.
Yeah.
And he's not big enough to fit. So I don't know what he is.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit too early to say, but especially like I always find with tackles or on the line, it's sometimes they need a couple of years to.
Maybe he needs to fill out a bit as well. I don't know.
Well, exactly, and I think what was like nostalgic to talk about some of the players. It's not like the Eagles where you could see it for the last few weeks. It just came from nowhere. I think that was a surprise for me, especially like CeeDee Lamb. It's like it's that relationship or what's happened. It's like that's come from nowhere. Like there's no reports of like grumblings. There was no previous games where they were seen arguing or it was just like. Why is it happening now on the biggest stage? And like you said, it could be the pressure. It could be because they did put the pressure on themselves because going into this game, it was like, oh, the Cowboys won 16-0. They should cakewalk and move on to the next one.
I think you're right, Joe. There's a little bit of looking ahead. Mm-hmm. And I also think you're right with saying this team just wasn't prepared.
No, there was not.
Wasn't prepared. Just a quick point, again, because we talk about the future of the Cowboys a little bit. I don't know what the answer is. I think probably at the time because I was real angry, I was like, yeah, just fucking fire McCarthy and get Belichick. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think that's the right move. I also think Jerry stepped back from those kind of moves as well. We've seen it. They're not splashy in free agency anymore. They're not flashing free agency wall like they used to be. He's learned his lessons that way, the hard way. I also think the two just wouldn't be able to work together. They both have to meet in the middle, and I don't think either man would be willing to compromise. Sorry, I know. I've been going on a while. McCarthy's got to go. Dan Quinn's got to go. Whether that means Dan Quinn leaves because he gets a head coaching job elsewhere, he's done his chances of getting a head coaching job. Huge damage, could be fatal damage. Harbaugh. Okay, yeah, I could live with Harbaugh. I think the one for me is go get Mike Vrabel. Go get Mike Vrabel.
I'm a big Vrabel fan.
I think that's what this team needs. It needs discipline. It needs grit. Harbaugh can give you that as well. It needs toughness. I think Vrabel can give you that. And that'd be the kind of the one for me. Also, the Cowboys are 12 months away from entering cap hell. We talked about the Saints, haven't we?
Yeah.
In the state here. Dak's due again. CeeDee Lamb's due. Micah Parsons is due. And how he sorted that mess out. And Dak's got all the leverage as well.
Yeah, of course he has. He's a quarterback.
And he's not going to.
It was good.
He's not going to take a deal that's Prescott's going to get a deal that's going to make him the highest paid quarterback.
Of course he is.
And
so he should. He was a 4th round pick who didn't get paid for the first 3 years of his career. Yeah. He should absolutely look after himself.
And again, this is one that's biting Jerry in the arse again, because if they just got that right the first time.
Yeah, delayed paying him and delayed paying him and delayed paying him.
and then, you had to get out that Zeke contract. You had to trade Amari Cooper because he was a huge cap hit.
Because there's a few players this year. Isn't like Tyler? Is it Tyler Smith? One of the Smiths on the offensive line's up for a new contract, and there's a few other players who.
Well, Tyler Smith's only year 2, isn't it? So
I think next year when he's eligible.
Tyron Smith also.
Tyron Smith, there you go.
There's probably some aging players like you can't rely on him to stay fit, so you probably need to move on from him. You probably need to make the transition of Tyler Smith from guard to left tackle now as well. That the right tackle is a huge problem spot as well. I think Terrence Steele's not your guy. So there's a lot of changes and not a lot of room to maneuver with. It's a big draft for Dallas. They've got to hit and they've got to get it right. I'm done now.
Right, and that covers the Dallas Cowboys hour of the show. On to brighter and better things, though. Sunday Night Football was a banger. I think every neutral in America, / around the world who's a football fan was probably, I'm not going to say in tears, but probably a little emotional watching it. I certainly was. I get emotional.
Tears?
I was emotional watching it. I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. I watched it in the morning afterwards. It was a great game, and Detroit was bouncing. I wasn't fucking crying, though.
Well, you were crying because Dallas lost, mate. So I'll celebrate the joy of the sport that I love.
Different tears for different reasons.
Absolutely, yeah. Dallas have hurt me too much to be crying about a playoff loss. But yeah, I thought it was incredible seeing all the old fans who've been going for 60 years seeing their second ever playoff win. And obviously, the game we're talking about is the Rams going into Detroit. Matthew Stafford getting booed.
That was fun.
Yeah, I love the pearl clutching online. Oh, why have they booed Matthew Stafford? Because he's an opposing quarterback.
Yeah.
It's not personal. Like, they didn't bottle him.
Stafford's a big boy.
He's a big boy. He's very rich, and he's won a Super Bowl through the trade he demanded. Like, he's fine. He's fine. He's absolutely fine. Like, he even came out and
said... you see what he said afterwards? He was like... Because I think someone said, "Oh, you're happy for like Detroit?" And the fact is, I'm happy for the players.
I'm happy for the players. Yeah, that's fine. He's just lost in the playoffs. I don't expect him to be chipper. I just found the pearl clutching about it very pathetic, truthfully.
Joe, how many of these fucking backgrounds have you got?
Oh, this is the last one. This is the proper one.
This should be the proper one. It's really good. Yeah, Jordan loves celebrating for those who are on YouTube. Joe, I think I opened with you last time. So, Paul, what did you think of the game? Obviously,
it was
crying about it, but what did you think?
No, it was a great game, wasn't it? Incredible. The way it started out, this was going to be like a 40-odd game because just the offenses were just on fire. Slowed down after halftime, and we only saw 3 field goals, didn't we, after halftime, and the defenses got in it a bit. But yeah, fantastic game. Ford Field was bouncing, incredible. Shout out, the Rams, more than played their part in this game. The Rams. Again, show just what a great team they are, and probably after expectations were so low for them after last year as kind of the worst defending ever Super Bowl champions, but they've certainly found something this year. Puka Nacua, again, we've waxed lyrical about him. This was the 3rd time the rookie receiving record was beaten this weekend.
Yeah.
He went for 181 yards, 9 grabs. It's key part of a lot of people's fantasy game day teams, including ours. Just sensational because it seemed to be kind of him really. From a wide receiver perspective, a receiving perspective. Shout out the Rams just how tough Puka Nacua came up in the game. Matthew Stafford might be the toughest football player that possibly there's ever been. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit much. In the time of watching him. The amount of times he gets beat up, so he fucked his throwing hand up, smashing it off somebody's helmet. He's very clearly concussed. Very clearly concussed after having his head smashed on the ground. Yeah. Not only did he have his head smashed on the ground on that play, Aiden Hutchinson stamped on him.
Yeah.
On his throwing
shoulder. Yeah.
On his throwing shoulder. Just insane toughness and grit to get back in there and still give his team a chance. Ultimately, the difference in this one was Rams red zone offense / Lions red zone defense. They got 3 stops, didn't they? That led to field goals, and that was ultimately the difference. But I think the Rams could be very complete. I think the Rams, were going to be a tough out, and that proved to be the case no matter who they played. I very much think as well if it had flipped round and Carson Wentz hadn't beat the Niners in Week 18 and it was the Rams that came to Dallas, the same thing would have happened. The Rams would have killed the Cowboys. But yeah, just a great game. And the Lions, it was great. It was great to see. 30 years, without a playoff win. It meant so much to them. And again, small margins in this one because it was so close. But ultimately, Aiden Hutchinson stepped up with a couple of sacks, and that Lions defense, which I'd started to fall apart down the back end of the season, stepped up in the red zone 3 times when it was needed most. It's going to be fun. This Lions playoff run is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think Aiden Hutchinson as well, definitely deserves a shot. I think he's had a real good second half of the season. I know me and Joe picked him as a DPOY outsider candidate in the preseason, and he's obviously not quite fulfilled that, but signs are good for the rest of this season and for next season certainly. And he's really come on strong down the stretch here. And I think
7 sacks in his last 3 games.
Ooh, very nice. And 1 tripping call. About 3 or 4 games ago. Anyway, and it's so easy to say, but a part of the thing about getting emotional about the Lions is it is the Lions. It's this Dan Campbell's Lions, more specifically. They're an emotional team. You can see they wear the heart on the sleeves, and they're not afraid to tell you how they feel and kick you in the nether regions or do whatever else it takes to win. They are, I loved. I'm not sure if you've seen the post game in the dressing room when locker room, Brad Holmes getting his game ball, and then he goes to give Jared Goff his. He's just like, "Hey, you're good enough for Detroit." And it's like, it's a great moment for Jared Goff, and because he was wrote off going into Detroit. People have tried to rewrite the history of that trade. It's like Jared Goff was a throw-in, and it was an extra first-round pick to get rid of him because it was a salary dump. And when you've been to a Super Bowl with a team, that probably doesn't feel good. So I loved seeing Jared Goff get his flowers and have his big moment, and he had a real good game this week.
It's real efficient, wasn't it? Real efficient game from Goff.
Yeah, and I think whoever won, him or Matthew Stafford, would have. You just they both played so well.
Yeah,
it was just a really well played game.
It was like a throwback Stafford game, a little bit, a proper gunslinger. He was doing the bending the ball around the lineman, and it was proper throwback Stafford, and it was great. It was great to watch.
And fully throwback Stafford, he lost in Detroit.
Yeah, he lost while getting the ever-loving crap beat out of him.
Yeah.
Quick shout out. This is a 1-point game, so this call or no call is huge. The potential holding / pass interference on Puka Nacua that didn't get called, which was a huge moment in the game. Yeah. Thoughts?
I think it's in these playoff games, you can pick up moments, but there's probably missed calls for the Lions, which weren't called maybe in the first, second quarter, and it's always hard to determine which one means the most. I think it's always tricky with that kind of thing where you can go back to each penalty or each missed penalty and say, well, that cost them the game or that. I don't think it was egregious where it was like the Rams Saints game, for example, where it was that was just a stone wall. It was one of them where it was it should have probably been flagged back, and also there's a big thing where
his jersey wasn't hanging off.
No, and there's so many playoffs where people come out, well, they should just let players play, and refs shouldn't be involved and stuff. So it's you can't have it both ways. Where I think if you flag, then it could have been well, that's a close call to be flagged. So I think there's probably plenty of missed calls for both teams. So I don't want to say that the refs cost the Rams.
I'm very much for that let the boys play, but when somebody's got hold of his jersey and it's been pulled back and you can see it stretch and it's not called, I think that's ridiculous.
I think it's tough, but the missed calls. My bigger thing for this game would be stop kicking field goals, Sean McVay.
Yeah.
On 3rd and 8, get to 3rd and 3, 4th and 3, and go for it. It's what kind of game it is.
Yeah.
You can't rely on officials missing.
The Lions are going to take every risk.
Exactly.
That was going to be one of my points. Is you could say that's where it was won or lost. It was also the coaching decisions where, Campbell went for it on 4th and goal and got 7 points. And that's a 4-point swing there.
Absolutely.
McVay didn't. McVay wastes timeouts just so he saves 5 yards here and there, and it does cost him. And then one of the biggest plays was after the 2-minute warning. Most coaches And I know McVay would have done this. Shanahan would have done this. All of them would have they would just run the ball to kill the clock and say, let's hope, let's our defense win it. But no, he was like, I'm going to trust my guys, going to trust Goff, going to trust, my best wide receiver, who I think he was an all-pro and he certainly deserves it and is certainly up there, one of the best. And, that's how you win. You're winning games. You're not trying not to lose.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's huge. And I think, huge shout out to Dan Campbell, because I was watching, somehow I was on YouTube yesterday and there was highlights of, I think it was Packers 49ers in the 90s, one of the biggest comebacks. And Dan Campbell's playing for, Giants. 49ers Giants. And Dan Campbell's a tight end for Giants. And I think at one point he just takes his helmet off and he's on the bench. It just kicks his helmet and it just goes past the coach, near the field. And I was like, that is Dan Campbell. Because it was it happened. I was like, who the fuck's doing that? And then I saw the long hair. I thought, oh shit, that's Dan Campbell. I have to try and find that and send it. Just a random video just popped up and I was watching these highlights. And it was oh shit, yeah, it's Dan Campbell. But no, all play to the Lions. I think it was huge. I think one stat I did see this is only my worry about Goff, is that when he was pressured, he was 1 of 6, and he had the shovel backwards, which could have been an absolute nightmare. But I think when he wasn't pressured, he was 21 and 21. Yeah. So he's still, obviously the Rams didn't get enough pressure because I think that could flip, and that's what I still worry about Goff. That when the pressure's on, he crumbles. But when he doesn't have any pressure, he's a top quarterback and he makes it plays with plenty of weapons, and having Sam Laporta back somehow after that injury.
It was how we managed to play in that game, So and to move on, and they're still the favourites, and the Lions could be in the conference finals. Who would have thought? I mean, you'll see next week. I think that point on Goff under pressure. The Bucs aren't going to change on defense. They're going to go blitz happy again.
Yeah, we'll get to
see how he's pressure, because that's going to be their best chance to win that game, right? They can try and force Goff to make mistakes. No point trying to cover, force Goff to try and make mistakes, and you do that by bringing the pressure. So that'll be interesting. Funny how the Lions.
I don't think Todd Bowles knows anything else.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what he's going to do.
How in week 17, obviously the Lions thought they'd won that game against the Cowboys to clinch the second seed, and now it's kind of worked out that they've got 2 home games anyway. So maybe they got that back with that no call on Puka Nacua and to help them win this game. And they've got that second home playoff game now. Yeah,
and they could well yet have a third.
Yeah. Maybe we should have Tom Joe's team there.
Maybe they could. I mean, it's not out of the real possibility.
And who would have fought 2 NFC North teams in the divisional and no NFC East teams?
Yeah. Who'd have thought an NFC South team would have lasted longer than the NFC?
Exactly.
We'll get to that.
Never will get in the playoffs. And Monday football. We had 2 Monday Super Wildcard weekend games after there was too much wind, snow, coldness, storms. I'm not sure exactly what the thing was in Buffalo, but it was unsafe to travel. So fair enough, you call the game off. Didn't matter to the players playing, but fans couldn't get there safely. And I think, to be fair, in the Buffalo Storms last year, nearly 100 people died. So I can kind of understand they don't want to have emergency services on 60,000 people in Buffalo sports event. So
shout out all those fans that went to the game at Orchard Park, by the way.
Yeah, crazy.
Dig their way to their seats in the stand.
Yeah.
I'd have been fucked that. I'm not going.
Yeah. And they've had playoff games as well recently. So it's not like, if Carlisle got to a Champions League final, I'd probably do whatever. But Bills have had wildcard games before. It's not a Super Bowl for them. So, yeah, fair play. And some of the footage of them, guys lying on essentially a snow bed because the stadium wasn't full yet, were just mind-blowing, essentially. Bills Mafia do it different.
Yeah, Bills Mafia are made for those situations.
Yeah, they're jumping through flaming tables and they are jumping right through the Steelers' defense because wasn't much of a fight, let's be honest. Ended up being a 14-point game, 31-17 Bills. Joe, did you watch this one live or catch up?
Yeah, no, I watched this one. It was a weird time here. I guess it's similar to you, Byron, where it was 2:30 here, the kickoff, so just chucked it on while doing some work, and it was a fun game. I thought how it started, it felt like it was going to be another, dominating game where it's going to be a blowout, where we had quite a few this week, which I wasn't expecting. There was only one. Yeah, obviously the last game we spoke about was probably the closest game. But this one, start off with the Bills, just looking like we thought the Bills would look. At the start of the year, just going, Josh Allen just going down the field and connecting with two of his tight ends to get touchdowns going, and then the Steelers didn't they had most. There was obviously the interception, and when that interception happened, it felt like, this is over. It felt like, I think it was it 21-0 at that point?
Yeah,
because Josh Allen had the run as well, which Josh Allen being Josh Allen, and then it was that blocked field goal just suddenly sparked the Steelers into life, and it got to a point where Steelers were only 7 points behind, and
what was the game?
And the Bills had 4-1, and Allen got stuff to start with, but his offensive lineman managed to shove him over the line while he was still in the air, which was that's huge when you think about it. And there was plenty of penalties or missed penalties in this game as well, which I know Steelers fans aren't too happy about. So it was a lot closer than I expected. Obviously, the Bills pulled away at the end. We've spotted by a number of games where, for some reason, linebackers are not tackling now. It's they've decided that as a collective, and similar to the cornerbacks, we're just not going to put in a good tackle. And it's probably the result everyone wanted. No one really wanted to see the Steelers in the divisional round. They felt like they were the typical 7th seed where there was an argument of not having 7 seeds because they were usually trash. Obviously, the Packers proved that wrong this year, but they were the typical 7th seed where they need to go. And they're, again, another playoff team where their future is up in the air, and God knows where they go from here. Go from here with the head coach. Some rumours that he might be stepping down, and their quarterback room's probably one of the worst from the playoff losses, to be honest, just because where do you go from here? Because you're not going to stick with Rudolph. I think he's had a good last few years, but he's been better than Kenny Pickett, and I think that's the worry that what do you do next year after you've got to get someone else in.
Yeah, it is mad. Also, by the way, if Tomlin does walk away, stick him ahead of Belichick for me in the Cowboys hunt for a new coach.
He has said that he's going to be back next year, if that helps. Or it doesn't help, but it tempers your expectations.
He walks away from the press conference.
I can't imagine him leaving Steelers and then just to step back and try not to have all the pressure stuff, and then just get to the Cowboys. It feels like maybe in a year's time, you just keep Mike McCarthy for another year, have a heartbreaking playoff loss, and then Tomlin comes in the year after.
Key to this one, I think the Steelers just couldn't get out their own way to start the game, could they? The turnovers, Pickens just get down. Mason Rudolph just a poor pass in the end zone. They should have had another one. I still don't really understand why that Freiermuth one wasn't it was recovered in bounds. He fumbled it in bounds. Saying it grazed his helmet. You can't fucking see that. So just
it felt like they've made the decision.
Yeah,
so we're just sticking with the decision.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, ultimately, if it had gone the other way, you wouldn't have overturned it because, also, the Steelers just wouldn't have challenged it because, all turnovers are reviewable, get reviewed anyway, so ignore that. But you wouldn't turn it over on review because you can't see anything. Just could get out of their own way. Fought back, the theme you mentioned started with the Dolphins, led some others, happened with the Cowboys. Just don't want to tackle people. I understand this defense missing TJ Watt is huge, and it's a very different game if TJ Watt plays. A couple of things I don't understand is just secondary and linebackers just not willing to tackle. Also, just everybody across the NFL, don't try and tackle Josh Allen high. He's just going to run through it.
To be fair, if the options are tackle him high,
to rise.
If tackle him high or just watch him slow down, then run past you are the options. At least try and tackle him high. And I know people saying it was a fake slide. It wasn't a fake slide. It looked like he might have went for the fake slide, but he just kind of slowed down and then set off again like a fucking cartoon. And the Bills just went, "Oh shit, I didn't know what the Steelers. I don't know what to do here. Hit the fucker."
Yeah, you just bounced off. It was Patrick Peterson that had him dead to rights, wasn't it? And I think it was a 20-yard swing in the play, and just try to get him high. It's especially you're a cornerback, you wrap his fucking legs up.
Yeah.
Also, if they carry on doing that 4th and 1 or push like their version of it, Josh Allen's going to break his fucking neck.
Yeah, it's
He's
like
insane.
I'm not sure what phrase has been coined for it, but it's like he's surfing, like crowd surfing across the fucking.
It's like he jumps and then they just sort of like shove him while he's jumping. It's odd. And then it was just like someone coming over you at a gig. He's going to break his neck doing that.
Yeah, Josh Allen is a odd character, I guess. Is probably
if he comes out landing the wrong way, 250 odd pounds landing on your own neck. Yeah.
Yeah. Probably going to need something else to replace the tush push in NFL law next year. LORE, not law. But I'm not sure the Josh Allen surf is going to be it because it looks, like you said, accident waiting to happen at the very least.
Yeah, mentioned it already, but what a game we've got next week. Chiefs Bills. Love this game. I think this might be a bit of a throwback. I'm kind of hoping the Chiefs get at it again a little bit more because the Bills are hot right now. If the Chiefs can be at it, I think it could be another classic playoff meeting between the two. And we'll see because Mahomes hasn't had to go on the road before, has he? So we'll see how he copes.
But the good thing for the Chiefs, but the bad thing for the Bills, they've so many injuries and they had like a few more. I think you got to their cornerbacks who were on like the 5th and 6th cornerback, and similarly with the linebackers who were on like the 5th and 6th. So some of them might come back from injury. So like Russell Douglas has been out for a while, and a couple of others. But does he just come up all Chiefs as he normally does every year, where they're playing a depleted defense? But no, definitely excited for the game. I'm glad I think it's a Sunday night game, isn't it? So it's definitely deserved.
Yeah, I don't know how much more there is to say about the Steelers, really. I did have a look back because it feels like they've been treading water for so long, like treading the upper water, but like that's kind of a problem in itself. The last time they won the first playoff game they played in a season, they beat Matt Moore, which should tell you how long ago it was. It was 2016. They beat the Dolphins and then they beat the Alex Smith Chiefs before losing to New England. And then since, they've won and done 4 times in a row, 2017, 2020, 21, 23. I don't know what the ceiling is with the Steelers, and I don't think they're hitting it next year. Well, they're not hitting the ultimate ceiling next year.
It's a tough spot in it because you just think, and it's every, you can probably say this about a lot of teams, but obviously if they have a decent quarterback, I'm not saying a great one, that might have been a 12 or 13 win team this year.
Yeah, but that's kind of the problem with, it's such a great record. Mike Tomlin never has a losing season, but you're always picking at 20.
Yeah.
So you're always, you're never going to get a game-changing QB unless you get very, very lucky. And what ends up happening is you end up panicking essentially and signing Kenny Littlehand's Pickett up and, a 25-year-old rookie with hands the size of Charlie, and you end up replacing with Mason Rudolph 2 years in.
I mean, it's such a bad one because they'd seen that guy every week for 4 years. I think it was 4 years. I think it was 4 years at Pitt. In the building, it's the same venue that the Pitt Panthers college team use. They play at whatever we call it now, Heinz Field. It's not called that, is it? But they play there, and they've watched enough of his games. That's on them. Like that's it. Turned to be such a backup. He was a fun college quarterback. He had one really good year.
Yep.
He also had the year that he was really good. He also had Jordan Addison.
Yeah.
Jordan Addison went. He wasn't so good. He went to USC. But that's massively on them. And I mean, you can't abandon him now, I guess, can you? But
I mean, if you abandon him in a race for the playoffs, what are you bringing him back?
You know what I mean? I mean, like, he's not going to be let go if I still got his pick within 2 years. And
I mean, what does it go into next year though? Like a competition between Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and he's going to retire, but like a Teddy Bridgewater type, a Jameis Winston type. Like, what is the future?
Tannehill or something? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just it's ugly, and Mike Tomlin over there. And I mean, we just broke down the Cowboys for 10 minutes after their game. We don't need to do the same with the Steelers. There's plenty of time for it in the off season. But just another just one and done. What was the point of that season for the Steelers? Because you competed and just back to square one again. And the best, funnest game of the weekend. Well, Rams was the most fun game of the weekend, but the one I enjoyed watching the most. Eagles Bucks. absolute kicking for the Eagles. 32 for the Buccaneers, 9 for the Eagles.
Again, we'll stick the boots in on the Eagles, but Baker Mayfield again. I don't know how many times I've said come into one of these review episodes and gone, fuck me, how good's Baker Mayfield doing? Or how good has he been? Or how good of a game has he had?
Yeah, well, he's just earned himself some bank. I mean, he earned $250,000 for the win, but I mean, he's earned himself some good money for next year and beyond, I think, because I mean, he's played like a top 12 quarterback this year.
Yeah, insane. Also, again, talked about Stafford's toughness. Banged up ribs, right? His ankle sprained.
Yep.
Toughed it out. He was running about at times as well.
Oh yeah.
Also, this was 32-9. So spoiled, like just a little bit. I'm late back from work. I'm only 3 quarters through, so I've not watched the end of it yet. I think I'm up to 8 or 9 Bucks drops. And a lot of them are huge plays.
Yeah, I mean the Mike Evans one early was
touchdown. Yeah,
because that's when it felt like, you don't know how the game's going to go at that point, and I mean, you know how the game is now in the third quarter, and I've just told you the final score, but at that point it was like, oh my God, you can't be dropping that in the playoffs, and now it's like, no, you could drop 16 of them and you'd have been fine.
Well, they were close to 16, the amount of drops that they had. And it feels obviously, you have a chance to beat Detroit next week, you need to clean that up. But yeah, from what I saw so far, and I'll let Joe, if Joe watched it, talk about it a lot more, just the Bucks just on them. So the Eagles just didn't have any answer to the blitz. Bizarre with especially the fact that Jalen Hurts had such a nasty injury last week to his finger. They kind of started to commit into the run early, and then they just went away from it completely. Yeah. Just seemed bizarre. No real. I think Jalen Hurts rushed once.
Yeah.
In the game. How many? That can't have been any other games where he's only rushed once.
No.
That he's played for the Eagles since he's been the starter. And yeah, they were just blitz heavy. The Bucks and the Eagles just had no answer to it. And also, it didn't feel like they tried to do anything different as well.
That's the most damning part for me. It looked like every time the blitz came, it looked like Jalen Hurts had never seen a blitz before.
Yeah.
And that can't be the case in 2024.
But it didn't feel like they helped him in any way. Like, it didn't feel like when you saw the plays developing, there was like, where was his quick out? Where was his
where's your easy read?
Yeah.
The blitz is coming. It came all fucking game. And it's what Todd Bowles does as well.
Yeah. And there was just none of it. It's like they didn't help him. Did you see the Jay Gruden RG3 Twitter interaction? That was hilarious.
Yeah, I'll side with RG3 because Jay Gruden hasn't got a good reputation as a coach. I guess he's probably going to be polite.
Probably not a human being as well.
No, yeah, when you're really in the league because of your scumbag brother, it's not a great start, and doesn't like he's outshining him by much. But Brian Baldinger broke down some of the plays. I'm sure you'll have a lot more through the week, but it was just like highlighting over and over again, like, this cannot be your approach to the blitz. And like, we're not experts, we're not Brian Baldinger who breaks down film brilliantly. I'm not sure there's anyone better on social media at doing it. But you can just see it every play, like, where is the hot read for him? And I'm saying, like, Jalen Hurts looks like he's never seen a blitz before. The OC is drawing up no plays for him. I'm no way saying this is only Jalen Hurts' fault, but there's just nothing there for them.
So I remember us talking back in the preseason around how big was it that Steichen and Gannon had gone. And I think kind of the consensus was they'll probably be okay, next guy up, knows everything, all that jazz. Actually, I think as the season's gone on, it's been massive for them that those two went.
Yeah, I think, Gannon's done a good job in Arizona anyway, but like, his reputation just by his absence has been hugely boosted. Like, if he hadn't got a head coaching job, if he'd just been fired last year for whatever, and just the mess that defense is now, he'd be getting head coaching interviews just on his absence alone.
Yeah.
And Shane Steichen it's obvious what he's done in Indy, how good he can run an offense. But actually, I did have some fantasy football numbers on that subject of Shane Steichen to not Shane Steichen for Jalen Hurts. Let me just quickly pull them up. So in games with Shane Steichen, and this is very based on the fantasy football numbers, but the numbers are based on what happens on the field. Jalen Hurts averages 25.59 points per game. Without Shane Steichen, it's 17 points a game. That's 8 points a game every game. just with a coaching change.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's getting worse by the week as well.
Yeah. They've got huge problems. Also, by the way, just to talk about egregious refereeing, a little bit of sympathy on the first touchdown. I think it's the one to, was it Moore?
Yeah, David Moore, yeah.
David Moore. Josh Sweat is in a headlock. Like, he gets tackled by his neck.
Well, it's the only tackle that happened on the play, to be fair.
Yeah. He gets tackled by his neck. How you don't call that is insane to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another one. The Eagles just stopped tackling. So they've got problems. Linebackers have been terrible for the Eagles all season long. Secondary's progressively got worse. Yeah, they just sort of gave up tackling. Like that Moore one should have been like a 15-yard reception.
Yep.
But we talked about his preview. I think the issue is the line. I think the line was covering a lot of stuff up even last year. I know there was that call by, I think Deebo Samuel said like Bradbury's trash. And I think there's a lot of things on social media saying, oh, it's been proven true. Because I think he said that, that line covers up so much about that secondary. And it's proved because, again, they seem to just dropped off a cliff.
Where they were playing to such a high level last year, weren't they?
Yeah, even like started this year, they were like, Jalen Carter was, he was like, he's running away with rookie defensive players. Like, but has he done much the last 6-7 weeks?
That's hanging by a thread now.
And I think that you might be lucky that they've also done a few weeks back. I think Will Anderson's put a good shift in, especially at the weekend. So I think they've dropped off massively. So he's just exposed them. And again, it's another team where, on offense, you just don't know what's happened. Like, it feels like since the 49ers game, they've just not been the same team. And they've just, never seemed right. And I don't know if that's, again, the culture. Is this another coach who could surprisingly get fired? 3 weeks ago, I don't think we would have said that. But just how it's all gone about. There's, I wasn't surprised it's like for this game because it's happened so many times the last few weeks, like people arguing on the sideline, Jalen Hurts not looking interested, and just everything, the defense being putrid, and getting Matt Patricia in there and getting even worse. So I'm not surprised, but for like the organization said at the start of the year, and then you flip it where you benchmark Jalen Hurts. Like at the start of the year, you'd have said, he's going to be an MVP candidate and he's a top 5 quarterback. Now, how this year's gone, it's like, well, he's probably still top 10, but is he in that elite, in that elite section? I'm not quite sure anymore because there's certain quarterbacks who've come in who's played a lot better than him the last few weeks, and I think he gets obviously the good grace from last year. So it's going to be an interesting time for the Eagles, and it feels like they've just been found out that they're a team where one team figured out how to play against them, and then everyone's like, we're just going to copy him. We're just going to blitz the hell out of them, and they just can't cope with it. And now you're losing your All-Pro center, and some other players. It's be a cute, interesting time. What happens going forward? Curious if Bill Belichick of the Eagles would be interesting.
Well, he's already got Patricia there, so
there you go.
But Joe, you touched about that. Shout out Jason Kelce on one hell of a career. Probably going to go in the Hall of Fame, possibly a first ballot. Probably, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but in the 15 plus years I've been following it, probably been the best center.
Yeah.
I think, to be fair, it's probably right. Maybe to go on 1 year too much because I think, did he go up? Was he All Pro this year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
He's had a terrible year.
He's had a terrible second half of the year, certainly.
He's been bad.
Yeah. Are you seeing him yesterday? Clyde Jacanti was pushing him back and back and back. And
he's just gone. He's 13 years at center.
Again, like you're watching, I'm guessing it's sped up a little, If you end up watching the rest of the game, Paul, watch how many times the camera focuses on Jason Kelce. Yeah. They know that he's retiring. Because every time the Eagles do something, it goes straight to Jason Kelce's face.
Well, it was like he sort of said last year, after the Super Bowl last year, he took some time and he was sort of saying he would come back. So I think he's probably only going to give the one more year. I think his body's just fucked. And,
and it is a smaller center as well, I think. Yeah. Obviously, that's helped him in certain ways, but obviously it makes it a lot harder going forward. And also remember that the Buccaneers stopped the tush push as well. One of the first teams to actually do a huge
I don't know if you've seen.
Maybe that was the moment for Kelce. Why can't do the tush push?
Jalen Head's going to have to learn how to surf next year. Bruce Arians was on the Manning cast when that was happening, and he was like, Vita Vea, that's the difference.
Quick question. Why is Bruce Arians' face so red?
Is there a punchline, or is that an actual
question?
No,
just a genuine question. So I saw on Twitter, some of the
it's weird. It didn't look that red in real time.
So red.
Yeah, I was watching it, and it didn't seem that red. And I seen the screenshots, I'm like, fuck, that looks like a tomato. I don't know.
Red wine. So I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think Arians likes to live well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of beverages wouldn't surprise me. There was one play as well, and I'm shout out Brian Balding again because it's his highlights these things where number 90 Jordan Davies and Josh Sweat, it's the nose tackle and the free technique at the end. They're blocking in different directions. It opens like a 10-yard hole for Rashad White just run through. And that's the O-line's job.
That's a Bucs team that struggled to run the ball for 2 years. 2 years in a row, they've been the worst team rushing the ball in the NFL.
They only beat the Panthers 9-0 last week.
Yeah, the problem's been, though, that it's only the O-line trying. You play the Eagles, and they're opening fucking holes for you. Like I say, I've seen it on Twitter, and I've just rewatched it. I've never seen anything like it, where they're literally pushing in opposite directions, and the O-line are moving backwards, and there's just this huge fucking hole.
It's definitely Jordan Davis because I think the left side goes to the right as well, and he just goes to the left in his own.
Unreal. That is on offense, defense. They have no organization. There is no game planning. There is no strategy. I don't know how it's happened because I know
we've all it from 10-1.
Yeah, and we did say at 10-1 like the beatable, the scrape by these games. And that's a sign of a good team, they win when they're not playing well. But they were winning. This team couldn't have won 10 games.
And they're not losing. They're not just losing as well. They're getting back. I think that's the big difference. If they just lost this game close or the few games, it's just the last few weeks. It feels like they've just been absolutely bad. They're one of the worst teams.
And like you said, the Bucs, got beat off the Saints, scraped by the Panthers 9-0. And then the blast the Eagles 32-9.
Yeah.
It does not correlate.
The point you made, Joe, about Hurts on the sideline not looking interested. When they had that run, they had a run of, I think, was it the Bills, the Chiefs, I want to say maybe the first Cowboys game, but that run where they were down pretty, 2 scores at halftime in the games, and they came back and won. And Hurts was picking up that team and dragging it.
Yeah.
And it's insane just to see him drop off and his, presence drop off and his leadership drop off.
That's why I feel like the coach could go, just because it feels like it's more the culture's changed rather than the actual players' ability.
I'll be really surprised if Sirianni stays.
I was going to say, I'd be more surprised if he stays and gets fired at this point, yeah.
Because it was that bad. It's not like, you've just gone out of the playoffs and lost. It's everything that's led up to this. Should have been the number 1 seed from that position.
And like you said, they're not losing; they're getting battered.
Yeah, they could afford to have lost that Niners game, and still, what they is it just then if the 2 wins?
Yeah,
down that stretch, to the Cardinals
against the Giants. Yeah,
you win those 2 games, they're the number 1 seed.
Yeah,
you can afford to have lost to the Niners, lost to the Cowboys. Yeah, madness. Yeah, I think he'll go, and I think this is so. What we kind of see is we kind of start seeing some of these jobs get filled. I don't think anybody's taking a job unless you've absolutely no chance of getting a potential Cowboys or Eagles job.
Yeah,
I think everything slows down now, and if the Eagles fire Sirianni, and as expected, the Cowboys fire McCarthy, they suddenly hold all the cards because everybody's going to want those jobs.
Yeah,
because these teams, if you're thinking you can see, double-digit winning teams, that how often does that happen? 10+ win teams get the head coach goes. You've got 2
talented rosters as well. They haven't fluked their way to it. All 3 of them. All last 3 seasons for all of them have been, Super Bowl loser for the Eagles. Dallas 12 wins, 12 wins, 12 wins. These are established good teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't happen often.
And, if you're Vrabel, Belichick, I assume Pete Carroll's done, but you know, you're going to want to find out what's happening here. I know Belichick took his first interview with the Falcons, but surely you're going to want to know if there's a chance of these. Actually, surely I'd want to go to one, especially Belichick, someone who's later on who can't really take on a rebuild. You know, just with his age. So yeah.
And he's had a go at the rebuild the last few years. I think he prefers winning.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, also hoping, because we had in essence 5 blowouts and 1 decent game. We need next week to be better, I think, from a drama. Like, we got a lot of drama, but from
next weekend's the best weekend of the NFL season.
From a competitive standing, we need all 4 games to be good, because there was one truly good game, wasn't there, this week?
Yeah.
Right, should we have a look at our comps?
Yes.
Come on, Barry, you're the host this week. Come on.
I didn't know what the word comps meant. I thought you were going comparisons. I'm like, what were we comparing? Yeah, so we all took the Texans +2. I'm still struggling with how they were +2. But yeah, very comfortable win. I was very foolish and thought Miami will be able to run the ball against Kansas City in the cold. And they maybe could have done if Mike McDaniel never bothered to try. So put that down as a failure of me and Mike. We'll both own that one. We all took the Steelers getting 10 points. To be fair to all of us, that's when it was being played on Sunday in a storm.
Yes.
They moved the game.
Had I known what I know, I wouldn't have done that. I should have also cashed out my bets as well.
Yeah, I probably should have, but I just let it ride because YOLO, it didn't work out. So, yeah, you only live once and didn't do a good job of it. Green Bay, Dallas. Yeah, me and Paul went Green Bay because we're foolish. Great shout, Joe, to go 7.5-point underdog. Eagles? Packers. We've been talking about the Eagles too much. Me and Paul just covered on the Rams, but yeah, a loss overall. But yeah, 3-point lost by 1, so get that sneaky one in there. And then yeah, I can't believe we both went the Eagles. I had the Bucks in originally and changed it last minute because I was like, they're just gonna get it right. They're gonna. I don't know where I think they're getting it right from, but you know, as quickly as it went wrong, maybe they can quickly get right. I don't know, but they clearly can't. I don't know, Jack. And yeah, another win for Joe. There's a lone winner there. Is that the only one we had? Oh, you had 2 lone winners, Joe.
Yeah.
Great job. So what's our record there? I see them actually, yeah. So Paul went 3-3, I went 2-4, Joe 4-2. So you're 2 ahead of me already. I think this one might be over. For me. You guys could probably fight it out. I'm going to have to get YOLO-y, and we see how that's worked out.
And I feel like I jumped on the NFL Around the UK show on Sunday, and I was screaming that 7.5 too many for the Packers will come. I think that was like Dallas will win a tight one.
Yeah.
Like I said on our preview, I only picked Dallas on here just out of sheer loyalty, but I was like, yeah, so I think Packers will cover, but Dallas will win. Obviously, got that right. But
we should move you to 4-2, yeah? Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah.
No.
I think Joe heard the same as I did.
No, not trying to campaign myself for 4-2.
Just it's important we know. Yeah. And then we also done the draft, and I think everyone, by me, had a winning week. I think we had 2-0, 2-0, and 1 and was it a push for me? No, 1-0. Yeah.
No,
1-1.
1-1.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's not bad 5-1 between us. So
yeah,
pretty good going.
Maybe next week we'll actually put a bet on what everybody's picks were if they don't differentiate. But yeah, I don't think they do. So
we should have, unless we have contrasting picks and we're on like both sides of it, like an under and an over, or whatever. Should have run the odds on a 6-fold.
Yeah,
and seeing what it had been.
Imagine the grief I'd be getting now.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, odds are next week we're going to be on opposite sides of one, so we might not be able to do it. But yeah,
1-5.
Yeah, good week. Yeah, good week though. Yeah,
great week for you guys.
I doubled up on the Chiefs Dolphins, so I went the under in the Chiefs. I wish I got Chiefs plus 4.5, like the graphic says, but it was Chiefs minus 4.5. Chiefs minus 4.5. I had a pretty good week overall with the bets. So I went 5-2 on my just spreads and totals, so the bread and butter. And I some props. I thought I was really unlucky with some of the props as well. But unlucky, lose. Like if Lamb got going because he got the over 8.5 receptions, 110 yards. I had him on 125 yard plus at plus 210. I got him the over 8.5 receptions at plus 115. Isaiah Pacheco I just got screwed by Andy Reid on that one.
Well, I think you got screwed by the Dolphins as well.
Yeah, a little bit
for not competing.
Yeah. But obviously, he hit the over, so over 64.5, which was the line he hit. I got the 75 plus at plus 145. I thought I really should have been getting the 100 and 125 the way that game was going. Which was a shame, but my favorite one. I like that I cashed the Rams plus 3 and the Lions still won. I quite like that. That was a nice spot, I think, to land.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back on what I had this week. I didn't win any of my weekly ones, which is always frustrating. I always like to get one of them snuck in. I don't think James Cook was third in the rushing, but he wasn't really close to Aaron Jones, who won it. I can't remember who I had for receiving. Was it Nico Collins? He had a real bright start, and then again they were up a billion points. So it was like got took out of his hands. And then Stafford, I think, finished second in yardage. But again, it was 403 for Dak to 367, so I can't really claim a close one. My best win of the weekend was Calvin Austin anytime touchdown yesterday. I think he's a real good little weapon. I think he was plus 1,600 for an anytime touchdown, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
So it was nice to end the week on a winning note. And I did actually have, I didn't post it, but somebody had done some weird internet research, as people do. Every time Trey Palmer tweets, "I'm pissed off this morning," he scores a touchdown. So I backed him first and anytime yesterday. And when I seen it wasn't Godwin and Evans running with the ball, I was like, oh my God, please be Trey Palmer. And obviously it was David Moore. But he got his anytime touchdown at plus 450, I believe it was, because I probably wasn't early to the market. I'm sure it was a lot bigger first thing. I'll take a little put on any fun narrative, whether it's the Trey Palmer pissed off angle. It paid off. So a couple of little wins, but not a great weekend.
Yeah, he woke up angry, that's for sure, yeah.
Joe, do you have any big ones this weekend? I can't remember what you...
I had a few close ones, a few same-day parlays. I think the closest one was the Cowboys-Packers. I think I just needed Trey Lance to get like 9 rushing yards. I was hoping, Dallas defense would actually do something, but they didn't. But on that one, I had Jones score touchdown.
Just to be clear, Jordan Love, not Trey Lance, yeah?
Sorry, did I say...
You said Trey Lance, yeah. I think it's because you've probably got Trey Lance background coming up soon, right? Is that
exactly, yeah.
By the way, how did we not see him for a bit?
He could have gone 10 yards as well.
Like the way that game was going, why did they not just throw Trey Lance in? Because Cooper Rush was poorly, right?
I think Trey Lance was the third emergency quarterback, so I think Cooper Rush was fit to play.
I'd seen Cooper Rush was on the injury report as being ill. So
so I think he was active. So
fair enough,
Cooper Rush would have had to be out through injury for him to get a game,
I thought Cooper Rush had been ruled out. No, that's fair enough.
Jordan Love, I needed 10 rushing yards to win. But
And he's been such a good rusher this year, especially like when it comes to scrambles. I think I had the start last week. I think he's second in the NFL this season on yards per scramble at 9.5, which is exactly what you needed.
And we talked about that on the preview that if Dallas will be able to get pressure, they might flush him out. I shouted that one as a prop bet, and obviously Dallas got nowhere fucking near him.
It shows you who not to listen to, Joe, in future. Nice and easy.
That's Dan Quinn's fault, not mine.
Oh. If I'm sharing responsibility with Mike McDaniel, you can share it with Dan Quinn.
There's enough people to share responsibility around that building this week. Jerry, Mike McDaniel, Dan Quinn.
The actual players, maybe.
Yeah.
Grand.
Fantasy Gameday.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but it says one more point in the chat, and I don't know what that relates to.
I thought Paul was going to do one more point on the Dallas Cowboys. So.
All right.
Oh, okay, that's why I was like, I'm meant to move on to Fantasy Game Day here, but it says one more point. I don't know what that is. Fantasy Game Day winning lineup. Beige 8186. Very creative usernames these guys have. AJ Brown as a captain would not have been a good pick. Amon-Ra St. Brown on the other hand, 36 points. Not the best captain pick you could have made, but they won the week and I didn't, so what do I know? Baker Mayfield is a great shout, though. 27 points.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones, 32. Pollard, 21. Puka, 32. There's where your captain should have been. Rashee Rice, 27. Even Kincaid getting you 14. Kelsey is a flex 14. Beautifully rounded lineup this. Everybody scoring. It's exactly what you need to win a tournament. Great job.
Great lineup. And I think just kind of the shout out, probably the ones Aaron Jones, huge game. Cowboys killer. We mentioned it. Pollard surprised. I was surprised they ended up being 21, and that output was 21 points. But yeah, Rashee Rice, big game. Kelsey, I think, was a good shout at tight end. You just didn't get the touchdown. Yeah. I think that he would have gotten that, would have taken it over, but they didn't need it. We finished 30th. So now we had Najee Harris needing to do. If he'd have just had like 70 yards and a touchdown, we'd have won a prize. Yeah. But Najee Harris let us down. Our lineup was pretty solid, to be fair, and it's a shame that we just got let down by that one player. Everybody returned. I think nobody got less than 14 points, so it was pretty decent, but not as good as Beige 8186. So congrats.
Yeah, great job.
I think there's one more for next week. I think
I was about to ask you how they're doing it again, because I love when it's over multiple days, because you have that have I still got a chance? And I had a DraftKings lineup because I can't play Fantasy Gameday in the US. And I had the same thing. I had Najee Harris going last night, and I was winning money up until that game, and then I wasn't by the end of the Bucks game.
Because there's 8 teams next week, isn't it, in the divisional round? So 8 available teams. So running the same thing for the whole 2 days.
Nice.
So again, chance laps. I'm not sure what they're doing for Conference Championship or Super Bowl. Hopefully, should see you meet in person at the Upper Punts event in Manchester for Conference Championship weekend. So that'd be cool.
Nice. And what tickets still available? £5, I think.
£5 on the door. Stick. Keep your eyes peeled, because I might be involved in helping out, which would be cool.
Very cool.
But we'll see on that. I need to hear from Dan and co. £5 are in. And also they're selling, it's the Beer Keller in Manchester. Also, they're selling tickets already for their Super Bowl party. So 2 weeks later, I think that's £20, but you get food and a drink and some food and some booze, and it's in the VIP area. And Dan and the Up Hunts guys will be running a show for you there as well.
Grand, yeah. So I'll ask before we finish up, winners and losers of the week. Who wants to start? Paul, you go ahead.
Oh yeah, I never get to go first.
No.
It's always losers first, don't we?
Yeah, loser first. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, there's no fucking surprises in this one. It has to be dumb fuck Mike McCarthy. Just everything I said about half an hour ago.
For half an hour as well.
For half an hour. His face, he has that deer in the headlights, gormless look, where he's just got he has that look like, why am I even here? Look on his face, why am I in this situation? I shouldn't be here. Look on his face. And I think it came up on the screen in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Where he's just no idea what to do. Yeah.
Joe, you loser of the week before we get another 30 minutes from Paul?
Yeah. I'll do a big bracket. Let's go NFC East, just because they just came into this year. They were expected to, they had 3 teams in the playoffs last year with a few wins, and this year has just been like what Paul said. The NFC South has got a team further along than the NFC East.
Grand, and you kind of covered Nick Sirianni there, so I'm going to say Tua, because I think that was between his performance and, I think Mike McDaniel just didn't have a quarterback that he wanted to throw the ball. He also didn't want to run the ball. So worst of both worlds. But I think went about as badly as it could have went for Tua without it being a 7 interception game. Just in terms of perception, and this is a guy who's coming up on needing a contract, etc. I just think it was a very ugly way to end this season on what has been a good season when it's sunny. Paul, you winner of the week on a brighter note.
On a brighter note, there's a lot. Baker, I've got Baker in the books. The expectations were so low. To have won a division and won a playoff game, it's crazy. They were. I listened on commentary. I think Troy Aikman said they were $80 million over the cap. The stat, going into in the off season, and to go from there to 9 wins, a division, granted trash division, win the division. That's 3 years in a row they've won the division and win a playoff game. I think that,
incredible job.
Yeah, incredible job. And Ben, I hope he gets a contract he deserves, because You know, he got treated shitty by the Browns, bounced, stuck in a shit situation last year at the Panthers. Had to go into a play for the Rams on a day's notice and win it. You know, and
won.
I think, you know what, might not have the ability that a lot of the other quarterbacks do, but he certainly has resilience, heart, toughness, and he's a great leader. Yeah.
And there was a fun picture someone posted today of when he was in Carolina and he was playing scout D end because the Panthers are a joke of an organization and there's not getting the best out of Baker Mayfield and there's kind of taking the piss. And I think that falls much closer to the latter. And again, he's a tough player in terms of like his physicality and he doesn't back down from anything. But like, I think a lot of players would have reacted a lot worse to being asked to play scout D end. I think for all the stuff you get here about, you know, the Browns wanted an adult in the room at quarterback. That's why they wanted to move on from Baker Mayfield and get a, you know, sexual abuser in the room instead. You know, it didn't quite work out well. And, you know, Baker Mayfield, I think, if anything, you could say he's acted professionally and acted like an adult throughout all these turmoil. And you've never really heard a peep out of him in terms of he deserves more, he deserves better, he was number one pick or anything like that. And yeah, I hope he gets a contract he deserves because he deserves it. I'm going to take my winner next and kind of torn on a couple here, but picked them a few weeks ago for it. I'm just going to go once again with the good people of Detroit. Wonderful scenes for them to win that game. And they had a pop star in attendance and nobody seemed to mind because it wasn't a woman, which is great. Yeah, they had the oldest season ticket holder in the land attending and he was in tears. And I just thought, again, you get to see all the old Dan Campbell stuff of him biting kneecaps and him telling the players about when they're putting pads on. And, you know, he doesn't want to do it. He knows it's tough, but you've got to practice hard to play hard. You've got to play hard to win. And, you know, even the stuff of why you wanted to coach in Detroit, because if you can win in Detroit, you can win anywhere. And, you know, it's a tough town. You know, a lot of it kind of reminds me, like the Midwest generally reminds me of the north of England of like tough people who, you know, get a lot of shit and kind of just get on with the day and, you know, salt of the earth type of people. And I think Detroit amplifies that. You know, they got fucked in the financial crisis in 2008 on a much bigger sense than football. But, you know, these are people that have had a tough time of it the last 30 years. And to finally win a playoff game and do it in their own building, got another one coming up. Hopefully they get another win and, yeah, maybe they'll host another one. Joe, your winner of the week.
I'm going to go NFL fans because there's been a lot of young quarterbacks who have stepped up and it feels like the future is bright. I just had a quick look of quarterbacks who I thought, let's go 28 and under. So they're going to be around for the next like 10 years. So you got obviously Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, you know, Justin Herbert. You can put Jalen Hurts in there. Now you've got Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson. There's a lot of young quarterbacks who I think is going to be around for a while. So it's going to be fun the next 10 years of the NFL. And hopefully
some fun ones coming in this year as well. Caleb Williams, Drake May.
Some of the ones I didn't mention.
Jade Daniels. Yeah. Yeah, it really is. The future's bright and very good to see. It feels like we're finally fully over that. You know, it felt like we had like a kind of group of like, you know, Phillip Rivers, Brady, Manning, Breeze, Roethlisberger, and they're finally all out of the pipeline now. And you do kind of worry of like, what's next? And yeah, great bunch.
We've only got 7 games to go.
Fuck, that's depressing.
275 games in. I think that's right.
Well,
wild. It feels mad that we're at this point. Like, I can't believe it's also we're over a year in since we started, which is crazy. Doing this show, which is mad. But yeah, I'm starting to feel really sad that the season's about to end.
Yeah, it is the best weekend of the season coming up, though. You got 4 great games on paper, and I did just have a quick peek as well at the sellers market for the tickets for this one. So you got Chiefs Bills tickets 170 as low as. Ravens hosting the Texans 121. Packers 49ers tickets as low as 220. Buccaneers Lions tickets as low as $520. Hottest fucking ticket in the world is a Detroit Lions ticket.
Not tempted, Byron? You know, you're not too far away.
My bankers. If we'd had a better weekend, maybe. Yeah.
16-1 winner.
Yeah, it wasn't a $1,000 bet, though, unfortunately. Yeah, I'll let you tell the missus that we're going to Detroit for the weekend and spending $1,200 just on tickets to the game.
Yeah, well, that'll be a good one.
Give her a bell, yeah. I wish. But yeah, we will see you, I believe, Thursday for our, divisional round preview episode. We've got 4 games to preview Thursday, and I think we've got a good guest coming in who's going to tell us why the Texans are the most exciting team in the land.
Yeah, we've got the kilted Texan, so I'm going to chat with him tomorrow, so we're looking forward to that one.
Yes, indeed. But yeah, thank you for listening. Check us out. Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, TikTok, pretty much GTW_GTC on all of those, on YouTube as well. If you want to see our smiling faces, everyone do a big smile. Oh,
See you on Thursday.
See you Thursday.